Moving on, the lawyer investigating issues of workplace conduct within the Miami Dolphins organization says the team has been cooperative in arranging interviews that will take place this week. On Friday, Dolphins tackle Jonathan Martin, who left the team and sought treatment, spent more than 7 hours talking with the independent investigator. Former NFL running back Billy Taylor joins us now as this story continues to develop. Welcome back to Arise America. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
First of all, can you even believe that that this story has gotten the attention that it's gotten and that we're still talking about this, 3 weeks later?
I'm kind of blown away by the whole deal, but as I was looking at it, every organization where you have to be a member and you have to gain membership, there's some kind of initiation process. And even when I was at college at Texas Tech, my first year lettering, everybody, after you letter, you get taped up. And then they take you out 20 miles, you got to find your way back, and then you get hit with a paddle. But that was part of the initiation process. In the NFL, the rookies always get up and they sing in front of people. They do different things that the veterans ask them for. What it comes down to, though, is the leadership of every particular team. You wouldn't hear about that on the New York Giants because their leadership is so great. I played with Harry Carson and George Martin, who were the captains, and they wouldn't allow that type of stuff. I think on the Miami Dolphins, my own personal view is that the leadership was not there because Incognito was a leader, and the reports that I had been hearing over the years, it was that he was not a good leader, not a good person, not a good teammate, and sometimes other teammates will accept that because it's part of the family.
We've talked a lot over the course of these few weeks about the culture inside the locker room. You've just made reference to it, that it's a matter of course that rookies, that new members of the team sort of get initiated, if you will. Brett Favre gave an interview earlier today, and he made this statement. He said when he first heard about this, his thought was, how can a 320-pound grown man be bullied? What was your first thought when you heard this story?
Well, see, I don't think the size of a person has anything to do with it because I have found, and I'm only 6 feet, I weigh about 225, and all the guys are bigger than me. The bigger they are, the more sensitive they are. I mean, the big guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds, they're sensitive as heck. And this guy was in his second year, and I think he had been putting up for it, Mr. Smith, for a long time. And I think that he finally got to the point where he was tired of it because verbal abuse, no matter who you are, will get to you eventually. You're only supposed to put up that a little while as a rookie as you go into the season. Once the season starts, you're supposed to be a part of the team because everybody else is gone. They've cut all the people. This is your team. When your teammates are still doing that, I think you have a problem. My thought process is that the coach had something to do with it because maybe he wasn't as tough as he should, and the coach said, well, I want you to make him a little bit tougher, and then he went beyond what he's supposed to do. And I think because of that, the negativity came out. And some people think that, racial epithet and all that kind of stuff is okay. Even in locker rooms, it's not, because you don't want to isolate anybody, because football is the best teaching sport that I have ever seen, because you have to learn to work together. You cannot do it by yourself. I, as a running back, could not run without my offensive line. I couldn't run without anybody. There's 11 guys. If one person makes a mistake, the whole thing fails. So I was surprised at that, but then I think it's going to come out, once all these interviews come out, it's going to come out that Incognito was not a good person, and he verbal abused a lot of people. There were other players on other teams who I've read different things that they've said about him as not being a good player to be around. Okay,
you mentioned the coaching staff, and I read a very interesting quote by one of the players who was talking about the offensive line coach, Jim Turner. And this is what it said. It said that he is beloved by many players, but also is known for using loud, insulting, and profane language with them. How can those two things exist at the same time?
Well, it depends on the coach, because every position, linebacker, running back, quarterback, has a position coach. Nobody really knows what goes on in that group except that group of people. You have to motivate the way you feel is best. Offensive linemen are probably the key to any team. He has a military background. That may have had something to do with it, because usually if you tell someone to do it, then they go do it in a leadership role. But I think Incognito went beyond what he was supposed to do, and I think that he may have been a person who had problems with other races in the past. If you can't learn to work together and other races work together, then you have a problem if you verbalize what you think. And I think in many cases he's done that, and this is not the first team he's done it. There's a Hall of Famer named Warren Sapp, said that during the course of a play he called him some kind of name, and what he's trying to do is get your goat so you hit him and then you get kicked out of the game. But Warren Sapp had too much class. He didn't utilize that, and then he went on and beat him up pretty bad. And that's the way that you get back at somebody, not verbally, especially on a football field.
I wanted to ask you one more question about this, and then I want to move on and talk a little bit about concussions before we have to let you go. What does a distraction like this? The truth is, had this not happened, I don't know that we'd be saying much about the Dolphins this season. What does a distraction like this do to the team's ability to play together and pull out wins?
You can either pull the rope tighter or pull it apart. They won last week, but the week before, I guaranteed it had something to do with it because they played the Tampa Bay Bucks, who had not won a game at all, and they lost to them because of the distraction. Anything that gets in the way of your normal preparation can distract you from being on the same page at the same time, and that is what happened with the Miami Dolphins. I think it's going to affect them as the season goes on because once this stuff comes out, because the gentleman, Jonathan Smith, went to the league headquarters this week, once all the stuff comes out and we see what's going to happen, I think that everybody's going to understand that this is bigger than we thought, and it should not really happen in an NFL locker room because we are professionals. You're not supposed to use an example outside of the locker room that could hurt anybody, kids, parents, anybody. And I think the Dolphins, Incognito, went beyond the limit of bullying and teasing. And because that subject is such a sensitive matter, kids look up to that. And people, I see ladies that don't want their kids to play football because of things like this. But I think it's a great sport, and I think with the proper teaching and stuff like that, I think it can be even greater.
Let's turn the corner and talk a little bit about concussions. I know you feel very passionately about that. Last time you were here, that's what you were here to talk about. The NFL just settled, I believe, it's $765 million in the suit against the NFL with players that have suffered traumatic brain injury. What do you think about the settlement, the amount, and what else needs to be done?
I don't think it was enough because it was the first offer, because you're talking 1,800 ball players. A lot of them had some negative things happen. I'm blown away by Tony Dorsett, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys, who has what they call CTE, which is something to do with the bruise of the brain. What I really like is that people are being educated on something they knew nothing about. When I played, if something happened, or I ran into a wall in Seattle one time and I was a little bit fuzzy, which is not a concussion, but they say that any bruise to the brain is something that could affect your life later, and you need to take care of it right now. What happens is they don't take care of it now, it gets worse and worse. You go back at it, you get hit again, and that's when the brain swells up and has some negativity to it. There's a lot of players who are hurting because of it, and I think that the NFL is right in doing what they're doing, trying to rectify it, but I think the negative media that is surrounding it is really hurting a lot of people.
Well, this conversation is another one that's going to go on for quite some time. We'll have to stop right now, though. Billy Taylor, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you.